Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Improving Classroom Culture, a K-5 Educator's Guide to Getting Started with Second Step. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I know it's really hard to get time out of the classrooms or school buildings where you may be, and we just really appreciate you taking this hour to learn a little bit more about how to get started using your Second Step resources to the fullest. So a quick look at our agenda today is just to do some introductions, of course, a little bit of history about Committee for Children and the Second Step program, and then we'll go into just a very brief few slides on social emotional learning itself, just to give a little context, and then we will spend the most of the time on Second Step resources, teaching resources, and then if there's time, we'll do Q&A. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Sanderlin. I'm a Senior Education Partnerships Manager with Committee for Children. Before I did this work, I was a classroom teacher, a nonprofit director, and a trainer for many years. I would have loved to have Second Step in my classrooms way back when, but that work has really helped me to see how it is for teachers and counselors who might be working in school buildings to try and fit in the work they're doing in social emotional learning in with the other things they're doing and to do a good job at it. So I'm very happy and thankful that I get to work with schools and districts around the country, but my area is specifically in the South, and I'm very grateful for my partners in the South and happy to help support their work. So along with me, I have my colleague Juliet Candle, who's going to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Juliet Candle. I'm the Implementation and Training Manager here at Committee for Children. Prior to coming here, I worked as a prevention coordinator for a number of school districts, and I've been here for about 15 years working with districts around the country to support their implementations, to consult on implementation strategies, and to learn from people in the field about what we at Committee for Children can do to make implementation tools that will help support the best work possible with our programs.
Thank you, Juliet. I'm so glad that you could be here with us today. Juliet's really kind of a celebrity around here at Committee for Children. She's really one of our experts that we go to ask questions and to seek out support when we need it to in our team of education partnerships. So thanks for joining me, and look forward to hearing more from Juliet in just a few minutes. Before we get started on today's topic, I'd like to share a little bit about Committee for Children. We are a nonprofit based in Seattle, Washington, with a mission to foster the safety and well-being of children through social emotional learning. We are pioneers leading the field with our uniquely comprehensive approach, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in just a moment, using solid research and connections to experts in the field to bring resources to schools and districts that make a difference in the lives of students, schools, and communities. Committee for Children is involved in all kinds of initiatives to improve the lives of children, founded in 1979. To help victims of child sexual abuse, we have had nearly 40 years of experience and opportunity to support social emotional learning, bullying prevention, and child protection efforts, reaching more than 14 million children each year in over 70 countries and in all 50 states. We partner with researchers, publishers, and other nonprofits around the world, really all of us working tirelessly to make sure that children have a chance to thrive. So what we do, our programs, what we create, I should say, really is our program's second step, not just better students, better people, and our program MindYeti, which is a mindfulness program I'll talk just a little bit about at the very end of our time today to get your mind ready. It's a classroom-based program that you could use as well as parents and others can use at home. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. The last thing I want to share about Committee for Children, for those of you who are not familiar with us and our history, since we did begin in 1979 and in nearly 40 years, a lot has happened. Many people ask why our program is called Second Step. So just the short version is that the reason is that Second Step, because as an organization, Committee for Children first began our work in studying the effects of child abuse and child sexual abuse, and developed our program, some of you might remember, talking about touching. Once we launched that program to help prevent abuse from happening to kids and dealing with abuse as it's happening, we wanted to prevent children from growing up to be abusers themselves by building some critical skills like empathy, self-regulation, and managing emotions. So our first step was to help what was happening to kids now, and our second step was to help prevent it from happening in the future. So after talking about touching, and Second Step were created and revised over the years. Some of you may still have those black and white cards, but hopefully you have the newer editions that you can see there in color. After talking about touching and Second Step, we wanted to also pinpoint and teach some skills, train teachers to help kids as they face a different type of abuse, that is bullying. So Steps to Respect was created to help address bullying. As we revised and created the newest editions of Second Step that came out in 2011, we decided that many schools want to address all three issues, which brings us to the Second Step suite, which is all three things: social emotional learning, bullying prevention, and child protection. That's that comprehensive approach that I mentioned earlier. So just a couple things before I toss it over to Juliet. First things first, now that you know a little bit about Committee for Children and how the program and our add-on units came to be, we're going to go into the program in a lot more detail, starting with SEL as a foundation. So to do that, I want to start with this question of what is SEL and why should we teach it? I'm going to assume that most of you who are joining us today have that basic knowledge of SEL, since you're either already teaching Second Step or you're going to begin soon. So since you are familiar, I'm just going to also include this information so that you can actually use it in your work. So if you're just starting an implementation and you want to get more teachers on board, or parents at a family night or something like that, this video I'm going to show you next is really a great tool that you can use to help with training staff, onboarding. Maybe you're having to present to a committee and so forth. So I'm going to show a video that we have on our YouTube channel and on our secondstep.org website, What and Why Social Emotional Learning.
There's a lot of talk these days about SEL, social emotional learning. But what exactly is it? Social emotional learning is the process of learning social and emotional skills, and it's just as important as learning reading or math. This learning process is most effective when it begins early and continues through high school. Social emotional skills are essential for success in school, work, and life. With SEL, students learn to manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, and maintain healthy relationships. Students learn to recognize what's happening inside them and to be aware of their emotions, which helps them deal with strong emotions and impulsive behaviors. It helps them stop, take a breath, and think about a situation before acting. Students learn to identify others' emotions and perspectives, which helps them empathize and show compassion, no matter who they are or what their background is. It's not difficult to imagine how this is important in the classroom and in life. Students learn to solve problems in peaceful ways and communicate assertively about what they need or want. This helps them get along with other students and get the help they need from adults. When students learn to make responsible decisions about their lives and their future, things can turn out better. Research shows social emotional learning makes a difference. Students who participate in SEL do better academically, have improved attitudes and behaviors, and act in delinquent or disruptive ways less often. In the United States, students with strong social-emotional competence are twice as likely to earn a college degree and nearly 50% more likely to graduate from high school and have a full-time job by age 25. Just as important, students who are socially and emotionally competent have more friends. This means they're more likely to feel connected to school and do well, and less likely to be left out or bullied. Simply put, by participating in social-emotional learning, students learn the skills to succeed in every facet of school and the rest of their lives.
All right, so hopefully that video just gave you that look kind of in a nutshell, real easy way to talk about social emotional learning and the impact it can have. So I want to start with a look at a few more things around the basics, the 5 core competencies and the framework that you see here created by CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, who is a partner and a leader in the field of SEL. CASEL has helped to define what SEL is and how classrooms, schools, and homes and communities can influence and support helping all children to learn the skills to support these competencies. So these competencies are self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-awareness. So if you've never seen this CASEL wheel, as we call it, or the website, I do recommend that you take a look. There is a lot more research and resources that you might find helpful in your work, so just go to casel.org for more. So along those lines with the 5 core competencies, I wanted to show you when we think about these 5 skills, which are also on this slide, no matter where you live or what you do for a job, most likely you've used these skills already several times just today. So when you think about people in your life who are struggling, maybe with getting or keeping a job, forming positive relationships with friends or family, maybe those who struggle in almost anything, it is most likely because they struggle in one or more of these areas rather than a technical skill. So you can see from the bullet points on this slide how Second Step aligns to those 5 competencies at a glance. This is our cheat sheet, sort of just a snapshot of our alignment, which you can find a lot more in detail information on our website if you wanted to see how Second Step maps to those CASEL competencies so that you can feel really confident that what you're doing when you're teaching Second Step is going to make a difference in the skills for students and things that will help them in their future. So another important thing from CASEL that I wanted to share with you is a meta-analysis from 2011 that really put numbers to what many educators, probably all of you, already know, and that is that SEL supports student success in school. On this slide, the results that you see here were from 213 schools who implemented a school-based universal SEL intervention like Second Step for one school year. And what they found was that with this large sample of 270,000 students, that SEL made a difference in some obvious skills like social emotional skills, gains in positive attitudes, and pro-social behavior. But they also saw on average an 11% increase in academic achievement. And for those that were at the greatest risk, it was closer to 17%. I don't know a principal, a teacher, or a parent out there who wouldn't just love to see gains like that in 1 year. And most importantly, if you can imagine the change in trajectory for a child who experiences that gain. You know, maybe that student was on the verge of not being able to move on to the next grade level or was suffering very low self-esteem because they struggled in school. So not only would a gain like that help them succeed now, but it could really change the path of that child, you know, the path they might have been on going forward and all the way through school. So we also see some indications from this study that students were helped with reductions in problem behaviors and emotional distress. Teachers gained more time to focus on teaching in the classroom, building a more positive classroom environment that emerged for all students. And administrators and counselors, social workers could spend more time on proactive ways to support students rather than in crisis, putting out fires wherever they go. All right, so just one more thing. Last, I want to point out that the Second Step program is often a part of larger initiatives in your school or district. And very often we hear from staff that they wonder why they're teaching Second Step when they already are doing other things like PBIS. So this slide illustrates that Second Step is not something that is taught in place of PBIS or the other way around. It's used as a strategy or a tool to support your efforts in PBIS as well as other frameworks like MTSS, restorative practices, growth mindset, things like that. So Second Step, as the slide shows, is typically used as a Tier 1 intervention in the PBIS, RTI, or MTSS environment, and that is to support the behavioral expectations and codes of conduct, positive school and classroom practices, character education, bullying prevention or safe schools, school-wide SEL instruction. So really, Second Step fits in, again, as a tool to help get you there in the goals and in the frameworks that you've already adopted. What we also know just in general is that strong Tier 1 interventions equals fewer students moving to Tiers 2 and 3. So the Second Step program was really built to really work with all students at all 3 tiers. So the last thing I want to mention, and then I'm going to toss it over to Juliet, is just the Second Step K5 suite, looking at what does it look like all together. Today, we're just going to focus on the Second Step SEL program, and Juliet's going to talk a lot more in detail about where you can find resources and how you can use them. But I do want to invite you to join us for another webinar if you are interested in the Child Protection Unit or the Bullying Prevention Unit. We have specific webinars on those topics, both in our on-demand section and in our live webinars section. You can find on our website, secondstep.org/webinars. So I hope you will join us for another webinar where we can get into details on those programs as well. So I'd like to go ahead and toss this over to Juliet now, who's going to help us dig in and learn a little bit more about what's available to get started.
Thanks, Jen. So in keeping with the description that Jen just provided about Second Step being a universal Tier 1 strategy, just to reinforce that, the SEL program is a classroom-based program that, again, is a universal strategy designed to promote social, emotional competence, and self-regulation. It's designed to decrease problem behaviors, and by doing those things, to increase students' school success. The program skills and topics that are found in the Second Step program for K through 5 are skills for learning, empathy, emotion management, and problem solving. And as noted, we also have the additional bullying prevention and child protection units. When you look at core implementation of the Second Step program, this slide addresses a big question that typically comes up very early on in the discussion. How much time does it take? What are the resources required in order to do a good job to deliver this program with fidelity? The lessons are designed to be taught once a week by the classroom teacher, and you'll see at the kindergarten level there are 25 weekly lessons that take roughly 20 minutes each. And then for grades 1 through 5, there are 22 lessons per grade, each grade having individual content for that grade. And those range anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes, again, depending on the developmental level of the grade. So let's transition now to talk about how to get started with your implementation and what are some really key steps to take so that you're using best practices and getting used to best practices as you begin implementing. First, it's important to recognize that your Second Step kit actually comes in 2 parts. The first part is the physical kit that comes in a box or a binder, depending on the grade. And the second part includes resources that are found on secondstep.org. And we're going to go through both of those elements together today. So first, in the box, you will find our program lesson cards, which are stock standard Second Step. They are simple, easy to use, very straightforward. The front of the photo is the part that you show to the students, and you'll see here is the back of the photo card, the lesson card, which includes In the left-hand column where the gray background is, that's all the prep information. And then the script and the various elements of the lesson are on the rest of the card moving to the right. So one of the key elements to implementing the program well is to teach all the lessons. The lessons are fully scripted. They include explicit instruction for students on each of the skills that's taught in the Second Step program. The lesson planning notes are included, as I noted previously, in that far left column. The lessons include engaging activities for skill practice, and there are also academic integration activities included. Each lesson card also has an accompanying following through card that includes daily practice for all 5 days of the school week. You'll see in this example from grade 5 that day 1 involves teaching the lesson itself, and then days 2 through 5 have brief 3 to 5 minute activities that are drawn directly from the program that can be used to create opportunities for students to practice the skill that has been taught that particular week. From the kit, then, you'll move on to secondstep.org, which is where there are a wide variety of additional implementation support resources. So some of the things that you'll find on secondstep.org include streaming media, which includes lesson content, video examples and classroom demonstrations, Spanish translations, staff training resources, teaching and implementation tools, and family resources and tools to engage families. And the way to access secondstep.org is to find your program activation key, which is located in the front of the teaching materials binder. You'll find a unique program activation key in the front of your binder. It's unique to that kit. You can share your program activation key with other people who need to have access to your grade level support materials on secondstep.org. But you'll see a page that looks like this. Start here. You go to secondstep.org and enter that program activation key. When you go to secondstep.org, you'll find a page that looks like this. If you haven't yet created an account, you'll see where the yellow arrow points to create account. When you go there, you'll enter your name, and there will be a drop-down menu to find your school. You will enter that, and it will take you to a place where you can enter your program activation key, which will then give you access to your dashboard. Here's an example of what your dashboard might look like depending on which grade level programs you have access to. This person has access to quite a few grade levels, and you'll see that the early learning program is at the top, and then the elementary K-5 are listed. You'll see the red icons represent kindergarten programs, including the SEL program, the bullying prevention unit, and the child protection unit. If you click into resources under the SEL program, you'll find a page that looks like this. There are 5 tabs across the top of the page: teachers and counselors, program coordinators, families, training, and community. And under each of those are additional tabs that are self-explanatory: overview, teach and reinforce, downloads, and streaming lesson media. You'll see the gold arrow on the right-hand side of this page that points to the home links that are available in both English and in Spanish. And you'll also see overview materials, engaging family materials, and so forth. When you click on the training tab, you'll find the teacher training that is included with your Second Step program. Accessibility is a value that we hold highly here at Committee for Children. We want to make sure that anyone who is using our materials and wants to use them well has access to as much support material as possible. So we do have an online teacher training that takes about an hour, maybe a little more, to complete. And you're able to stop and start when you do that. So if you have 10-minute segments in which to do your training, you can certainly do it in 10-minute segments. And you'll see there are 2 buttons here: training resources, and then go to training, and that's where the online training will start for the teacher training. We're also really pleased to be able to offer streaming lesson media to go with each of our lessons in the Second Step program for K-5. We have the option for program users who would like to stream the lesson media, including videos and songs, via our website instead of using the DVDs or CDs that are included in the kit. So all of the lesson content for K-5, except the lesson cards themselves, is available for streaming, which people have found to be extremely useful and accessible and seems to remove a barrier for implementation and support implementation with fidelity. One of the main ways that the program supports self-regulation is through our Brain Builder games. These are fun games that support some really specific skills called executive function skills, including working memory, impulse control, and focusing attention. Throughout the Brain Builders, the overall message is that your brain can get stronger and smarter with practice and effort. A growth mindset idea that you can always learn and grow over your whole lifetime. This is an explicit message that we share with students whenever we're doing Brain Builders. The games themselves have 1 or 2 rules each. They're designed to be played daily or even several times a week, and they're included in grades K through 3. These games include directions on how to make the game more challenging, so the kids will stay engaged and stretch their skill level. In grades 4 and 5, there are activities that build these skills also embedded in the lessons. So I'd like to show you a Brain Builder game in action. Remember, even though these games look simple and fun, they're teaching very specific skills. So see if you can tell which skill the teacher in the video is helping her students practice. You can find more of these kinds of demonstrations of Brain Builder games on secondstep.org.
All right, boys and girls, today we are going to start out our second step lesson with a Brain Builder, and we are going to play Step or Stay. So I need everybody to move to the outside part of the rug.
I can just sit down and it'll be like that.
Make sure you have space so that you can jump back and forth. If you're squished, there's room by Audrey and Danielle. Okay, so everyone should be off the rug, toes behind the rug. This is the bank of the river. And then the dark blue border on the rug, that is the river. So if I say in the river, you're going to jump onto the dark blue part of the rug. And if I say on the bank, you're going to jump right off the rug onto the regular carpet. Okay? You guys ready to try this?
Yeah.
Okay. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. In the river. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. In the river. In the river. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. On the bank.
I knew you were going to.
All right, good job. You guys can come back to your carpet spots, please.
So in that video, you saw the students having to use their executive function skills of listening, waiting, using their working memory to think about what the rules were for the game. One of the really nice resources that we've provided on secondstep.org is that there is a Brain Builder video example of every single Brain Builder that's in the Second Step program. So if you'd rather learn how to play a game by watching it rather than reading it, this is your resource. And you'll find it again in secondstep.org under Teachers and Counselors. As you're getting started with the program, you may want to collect some baseline data on your students and where they are with regard to executive function skills. So we have created a couple of data collection tools that can be very useful for you to not only get the baseline, but also as a formative measure of how your students are progressing with these various executive function skills. On this slide, you will see this is Brain Builder Student Observational Assessment Form A. This form allows you to do a quick assessment on all of the students in your classroom as they are performing a Brain Builder. So you see it's simply divided into often, sometimes, and not yet. And as you observe the students practicing and attempting to be successful with the Brain Builder games, you can simply write their names or their initials into the column that applies to them on that particular day for that particular Brain Builder. Another tool that we have that's very similar is Form B. And this is one where you might be looking at a particular subset of your students that you want to check in on with their executive function skills. And so in this case, you might choose 8 or 10 students that you really want to pay attention to for a certain brain builder and track how they're doing across time and whether you see them improving in those particular skills. One of the things to be said about secondstep.org is that we have many, many tools developed to support you. And if you're thinking to yourself, boy, I wish Committee for Children had thought to create blank, whatever it is, chances are we have created it. And so it's best to either go to the website and look for it, and if you're not successful there, give us a call and ask if it exists, because probably we'll be able to point you to that resource and save you from recreating the wheel. Finally, we do have a self-assessment where a weekly skill check that students can complete themselves on what skill they learned that week in Second Step, where they practiced it, how much more practice they think they need, and areas where they might practice that skill. So that's just another resource that can help you and your students move forward with these skills. Let's transition now to talk more about school-wide reinforcement. We've been talking about Second Step in the classroom, the Second Step lessons, as well as the daily practice that can happen in the classroom. One way to reinforce school-wide is to have all staff be in agreement that they're going to use the various activities and reinforcers that are available at the classroom level. We mentioned earlier the following through activities for days 2 through 5 that have those brief skill practice activities. They can also send home the home links that are available in the program, and those can be sent home either through print or electronically, and they highlight the skills that students are learning and also provide framework and activities for parents to practice some of these skills with their students as well. Within the lessons, there are reflective writing assessments. There are also book lists on secondstep.org that include books for students, teachers, and families. So those are ways to do more of a school-wide strategy with the Second Step program. There are also Spanish materials for our program online. There are free materials that are translated into Spanish. The lesson content that is student-facing is translated into Spanish. The family letters, home link activities, and we have a glossary of the common vocabulary that's used in Second Step translated into Spanish. We also have available in our catalog posters, the sing-along CDs, and the lesson DVDs for selected grades, all in Spanish. To engage your families and continue this school-wide, community-wide effort, there is a program overview for families. There's a PowerPoint presentation that is completed for you, complete with notes. It's customizable if you want to add in any specific data from your school, any specific examples of why you're working on social emotional learning, or maybe some data about school connectedness or school culture that is part of the foundation of why you're doing this work. So that PowerPoint is available again on secondstep.org. Finally, we have a Second Step K-5 Principal Toolkit that some of your schools may already have. This is a supplementary tool that can help principals and leadership to extend the program so that it truly is a school-wide effort. It includes not only the materials that are in the binder, but it also has online materials as well. Some of the tools that are included are morning announcements, school assembly scripts, staff meeting activities, which are a great way to keep staff engaged with the program, to keep it top of mind, to make sure everyone realizes this truly is a priority and an expectation for your school. And it also helps to orient all grade level teachers to what's being taught in the other grade levels so that they can see the progression of skills that their students should have. There are conversation guides. You'll see on the right-hand part of this image the Talk It Over tool, which is an A-frame tool that stands up, and on each page there is a Second Step poster that faces the student, and the part that faces the adult in a one-on-one conversation walks the adult through a conversation on processing what happened, why has a student been referred to you for a one-on-one conversation, what happened, and what might they try differently in the future. One really great element of this Talk It Over tool is that it includes restorative practices language. And so if you're also a school that's using restorative practices, this is a beautiful way to blend your SEL efforts with restorative practices. So as I said, there are digital tools and lots more resources online, including communication tools for families and parents. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jen to share a couple more resources, and we'll wrap it up. But it's really been a pleasure to speak with you about our implementation supports. Jen?
Yes, thank you, Juliet. That is a really insightful and helpful kind of quick tour of some of the resources. I wanted to share with you just one more as we finish up our time today. I promised that I would mention a little bit about MindYeti, which is our classroom mindfulness program. It is an online website as well as an app. It is really comprised of guided mindfulness sessions that can help kids to calm down, to focus their attention, and to get ready for what's coming next. So if you're not familiar with mindfulness kind of as a big idea or how it might look in the classroom, we do have some videos you can access when you go to MindYeti.com, and you can see for yourself some of the examples of what those daily sessions that are just 5 to 6 minutes can do to help teachers to manage their classroom and help the students to boost their second step skills. There are a variety of different levels, or there's 3 levels, I guess, of the subscription you can do. There's free. There are 15 free sessions when you sign up at MindYeti.com. You can also do an individual license for a year or a school-wide license, which I think Juliet and I would both really promote. When you look at the sessions in more depth, you can see that it covers a variety of different topics, learning the basics of mindfulness, how to calm down, to create, focus, reset, and even go to sleep. So please share this with your family since there are 15 free sessions. We hope that everyone can access the sessions on MindYeti.com and help at least introduce your children, whether it's parents or teachers or anyone else in the community, to introduce children to mindfulness and help them to start tuning into themselves and the different areas they would like to work on. So with that, the very last thing we wanted to do is share one last video. This is a video that can really kind of bring it all together. It's a very short video you might even show at a staff meeting that can help you to see how Second Step and social emotional learning in general as a school-wide effort and in your classrooms can really empower educators and teachers to bring these skills to their students in a really positive way so that you feel like you're proactive versus reactive, which is, I think, a really important step for most people in all areas of our lives to try to do that. So we're going to go ahead and show this video and then come back and take any questions that you may have and say goodbye.
The idea that I can improve kids' lives with respect to social and emotional learning makes me feel valuable. I love literature, but I didn't get into teaching because I love books. I got into teaching because I love kids.
We're impacting the world as a teacher, and I think that's great responsibility, and it's great to see the impact that we do have on these students.
We are seeing an increase in academics and academic success, as well as a decrease in negative behaviors. It's given us an opportunity to have those conversations with teachers about when would you send a behavior to the office versus what you can handle in your classroom. And it's empowered them to be able to handle things within their own classroom setting without disrupting that academic environment.
It gives them confidence that they have a set of tools and capacities to approach kids who struggle.
With the kids having better behavior, you're not stopping your lessons every 5 seconds and getting them back on track. You can get a whole lesson in. You can then get to the fun stuff, the experiments or the hands-on in every lesson.
The kids are embracing the songs. Kindergarten teachers are saying the kids love the belly song. And so there's just fun things like that that make it fun to learn.
Just forming these relationships that you know in some way you're changing these students' lives and you're really making a difference.
Establishing that relationship is so crucial because a lot of time these kids, as they get a little older, they push the boundaries. They don't look at the teacher as that person that they'll listen to everything about.
I carry my feelings on my shoulders sometimes, so if I ever get mad, I stop and breathe, and it helps me calm myself down.
I feel really proud if I see them use these skills outside, or they tell me, oh, I use this at home today, That shows me that they're gonna be a good citizen as they grow up.
We need to think about what kind of world we want to build and what kind of future we want for the students across the country so that we build toward a world that we all want to be a part of.
None of it would work if it weren't for the teachers. Because of their work and dedication and their belief in the systems that we're building, that's why our school is the school that it is today.
Okay, so we're going to just open it up to questions. I hope that I'm not really seeing any coming in our chat box. Oh, there's one. One question people have often is whether you can use the codes, the program activation keys, more than once. And I know Juliet mentioned it, but I'll mention it again just to let you know that yes, you can. So if you change grade levels or if you support more than one grade level, as many people as needed can register the kit using those codes and access those resources. It is unlimited and forever, so you don't have to worry about timing running out or too many people using those resources. That is not true for our middle school program. So if you are someone in a K-8 school and you're using the middle school, that is a subscription-based program since it is online. And if you're not using the middle school, but you'd like to know, I'll again put in one more plug for other webinars that we hope that you might join us for. And middle school is an exciting one with our digital program. So I don't see any other questions, but I do want to let you know that after this webinar, after you go back to your classrooms or your schools, if questions do pop up, we are here to help. Our staff of our client relations professionals are really here to support your implementation planning efforts, to support staff who teach Second Step lessons. They're really very highly trained, very knowledgeable folks who answer the phones. We always really say that we like you to call us. We're not the cable company or your cell phone company. We won't put you on hold for a long time, but we are available Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. And you can call us at that phone number. You can always email, and of course, we want you to visit secondstep.org to learn more about our programs and what's available to you and to access those resources that we talked about today. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and say thank you for joining us today, taking time out of your day. One thing we do know is that our mission and our vision of safe children thriving in a peaceful world cannot happen without your partnership and without people who are delivering the Second Step lessons, who are working hard to create an environment in their schools using social emotional learning as a tool and as your framework. So I want to say thank you not only for joining us, but for that work that you're doing every day. We are very grateful and humbled by you and that work. Juliet, would you like to say thank you and goodbye?
Thank you so much for joining us. I echo everything that Jen just said, and we hope your time today was well spent with us.
All right, well, join us for another webinar in the future. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.